mind always be tagged to this pure consciousness in all my work and actions?
I think it's not just Pradeep in India, but a lot of people across the world. When they listen to non-duality first, they begin to understand, and then this question, inevitably it will come up at one point or the other. I see, yes, such a thing is there. It's like a serene, changeless being, consciousness. Very nice. But I don't seem to be somehow in that frame of mind when I'm driving, walking, talking, acting in the world. I'm mixed up. And that background reality is so nice. How can I be there all the time? There's a verse in the Mandukya, the second chapter, a very beautiful verse. The last verse of the second chapter of Mandukya Karika. Very beautiful. You know what it says? It's an answer to this question. Seeing that reality, Brahman, within, and seeing that reality outside, you become that reality, you are that reality, and you find bliss and peace and completeness in that reality, and never slip away from that reality. The last quarter, Tattvad aprachyuto bhavet. What do you become? You become that which can never slip away from that reality. I have a feeling the questioner would say, yes, that's what I want. Advaita Vedanta says that's what you already have. You've always had it. You suffer under this notion that I have slipped away from it. Even when you think that you have slipped away from it, you have not. Let's see how I can put it. There are many beautiful ways to put it. First of all, notice this one. I am that reality. It's not that reality, it's not Brahman, it's not Atman. We use all those terms, but those terms can be distancing sometimes. Yes, my Brahman is fine, but I have a problem. Atman is fine, my Atman is fine, like my liver is doing well. But I have a problem. Atman is you. It's literally you, your essence. Yeah, even if I say your essence, you say, yes, Swami, my essence is fine, but I have a lot of problems in my job, in my family, in the day-to-day world. You are that reality. Let's talk about that openly. Instead of distancing it away as Brahman, Atman, or even the word Tattvam. Tattvam literally means an impersonal truth. So I am that. How can you ever be distanced from yourself? How can you ever slip away from yourself? What you can have, the objection might be, but I feel it. I get disturbed, I get angry, I get unhappy. Yes, that wrong notion can be there. That somehow there was a serenity and I've lost it. It was a serenity in the mind, and the mind has lost that serenity. You are the one which experienced the serene mind. You are the same one which has experienced the disturbing mind, the disturbed mind. The calm, relaxed, spacious, luminous mind and the agitated, turbulent mind. You are the same one. Whether it's a waveless, vast expanse or a turbulent ocean with waves and storms, it's the same water, literally the same water without any change at all. Even the ocean example is a little misleading, because you'll say, no, Swami, but something is happening to that water. There's a lot of ups and downs. Yes, but the water nature is unchanged. Water has not become not water when it is in the middle of a storm. In the same way, whether you are in the depths of meditation, absolutely calm, quiet, the world forgotten, still, peaceful, or engaged in frantic action, in a high-pressure job, you are exactly the same unchanging awareness. It may not seem to be that, but you are that. Let me see how I can put it. The space example. So Mandukya uses a space example. Suppose you have different pots. And now the space, which seems vast and unlimited, seems to be cut up into different pots. The space inside the pot, in Sanskrit, Ghatakasha. And the space outside the pot, called Mahakasha. But literally, let me ask you, is the space actually cut off by the pot? The space which was here in Manhattan a few hundred years ago. Now we have so many densely packed buildings. Has the space been cut off? It's amazing. Yeah, it looks like that. Let me ask you an even simpler question. If you have a glass of water, half full, half empty. There's water and there is, it's filled with air, but let's forget the air part of it. There's space there, which there's no water in and there's space in where there's water also, but anyway, just empty space. Let's forget the air for the moment. Now when I move the glass from here to there, will the water inside move or not with the glass? All of you don't seem to be sure. This part you should be sure of, because the next part is more confusing. Yes, the water does move. Otherwise, it would make a very wet mess here. If I moved the glass and the water would splash down here. Swami, you forgot to take the water along with the glass. No, that doesn't happen. When you move the glass, the water moves with it. Now let me ask you, does the space move with it? When the glass is moving like this, the space circumscribed by the glass, that space inside, is it moving along with the glass? Is the space moving along with the glass? No. Tell me, does space move along with the container, the glass, or the glass is moving through space? Glass is moving through space. Yeah. When you cut up Manhattan into so many buildings, you have not enclosed space. Space has graciously permitted the buildings to exist within itself. Now, what can happen is, in one pot, there may be smoke and soot. Maybe you lit a fire or something. In one pot, there may be holy Ganga water. In one pot, they may have dirty water. In one pot, there may be milk. Is the space polluted by the smoke in that pot? Is the space purified by the holy water of the Ganga river in that pot? Yeah. No. The pot might be affected. The pot gets affected. But space does not get affected at all. I noticed in India, when a person dies and the body is burnt, the wood is burned to ashes, and the water, there's a lot of water in the body. It vaporizes, and the air around it becomes very hot because the fire is burning. But the space, is it affected right there where the body is burning fiercely? The space is not affected. It's the air which becomes hot. It's the wood which becomes burnt into ashes. It's the water which is vaporized. Look at the 4 elements. They are affected. Earth, fire, water, air. Space, not affected. Similarly, whatever the contents in the mind, whatever the actions of the body, you, the pure consciousness, you are exactly always the same. You have not departed from your real nature as pure consciousness. How can I remain connected with that? What he is asking, I know, because it's something that we also ask. I remember, I told you earlier, once I was sitting with a monk in Haridwar, and one young monk was discussing non-dualism very earnestly with the teacher, with the Swami, old Swami. And finally he said excitedly exactly this question, but Swami, we must at least hold on to that idea that I am Brahman. Aham Brahmasmi, yeh chinta to karni chahiye. This much I must hold on to. And the Swami said, this is exactly what you must not hold on to. Because somehow I think I am Sarva Priyananda. It's like saying I must hold on to it. I must keep saying in the background, I am Sarva Priyananda, I am Sarva Priyananda. Otherwise I might forget. Who am I? Swami, you always ask, who am I? No, I never forget that. The difference between an actor who is acting as Hamlet or somebody in the open air Shakespeare there in Central Park in summer, that actor must always remember that I am Hamlet. Must keep in mind consciously. But suppose the actor's name is Mr. Scott. Does he have to keep remembering, I'm Scott, I'm Scott, I'm Scott? I must keep it in mind, otherwise I'll become Hamlet. No. Doesn't have to remember. In fact, to be a good actor, must not even think about it. Must try to be Hamlet with all intensity. Similarly, the reality which we are, you don't have to keep thinking about it, otherwise I might forget. That happens at the beginning. Because once we get an intuition of what is possible, what we really are, we want to be centered in that. And that's why this question comes, give me some technique so that I noticed what you're talking about. It's remarkable. And let me always remain like that. What Advaita says is, you always are like that. All right, one more point and then we'll go on. Very important here. It is what actually a non-dualist teacher would say to this question. The difference between memory and experience. In Sanskrit, smriti and anubhava. The two are not the same, they do not go together. When you remember something, you are not experiencing it. When you are experiencing something, you are not remembering it, or you need not remember it. All right? Now I'm showing you a clock. Look at the clock. Will you say I'm seeing a clock or I'm remembering a clock? Seeing. All right. Now close your eyes and visualize the clock. Will you say I'm seeing the clock or I'm remembering the clock? Remembering. Okay, you can open your eyes. This is the difference between anubhava, experience, and smriti. Advaita is experience. It's not a memory. It's not something I experienced earlier and then I'm trying to remember it now. The question is, how can I always remember I'm Brahman? No, don't remember you're Brahman, because you're always Brahman. It's always shining forth. It's just somehow we think it's not present to us. We think it seems to be hidden. That's why we think that we have to remember it all the time. If you are looking at me, you say, Swami, I'm seeing you. Yes, you're seeing me, but are you remembering me? Swami, I'm seeing you. Why do I have to remember you? When I don't see you, I might remember you. This is the difference between memory and experience. Non-dualism is based on an ever-present experience. It's blazing forth all the time. In fact, it's the only thing that's blazing forth all the time. And we have to recognize it. We don't recognize it. You might ask, all right, so how do I recognize it all the time? You don't have to recognize it all the time also. Once you recognize it, it's done. Only thing is, you're right. There might be a period in our spiritual practice when you need to dwell on it intensively for some period of time. But remember, that's also practice. That's not enlightenment. It's remembering an ever-present object. If you're trying to remember the clock when I'm showing it to you, you're doing something odd indeed.